So it goes without saying that Spirit Chronicles definitely pulls out every single anime trope that it can. And for some reason, the way that it does it is just, I don't know if it's unique or just the way that they tell it or the way that they decide to make their decisions is just definitely more special than most. I think because it doesn't do it in a cheesy way, nor does it take itself too serious at the same fact. But as we led into this episode, the one thing that kept ringing in my head was, okay, this episode's called Royal Lineage. What kind of kingdom is Rio going to be gifted? What kind of job is he going to absorb? How are they going to kind of weave this into the story? And that is exactly what ended up happening in this episode. It came up to find that his two parents, so his mother and his father, were of royal lineage. Specifically, his mother was heiress or princess to the kingdom where the place that his father was from, like the whole Arching Kingdom, because they're in a separate country that went where he came. The country is being ran by a queen and a king, and their daughter was his mother, while his father was assigned to her as her royal guard, and they ended up falling in love, etc. Conversely, his father's mother is the leader of the village where he has been staying at, where he had originally ventured off to, where he thought his mother was from, but comes to find that his mother's actually a woman of the kingdom, which I thought, cheesy or not, tropey or not, I actually really loved the way that they did that and they presented that. And we knew that his parents had ran away from where they came, but the reasons for that, we didn't know if they were fugitives or outlaws or if they were just escapees. We didn't know the reasoning behind that, and we also really didn't know too much about his father either. And I like how this episode really broadened our scope, and we now know more of who his mother was, not only to him, who she was as a person, but who she was to this greater land. And we got to see more backstory on his father. His father was this amazing, samurai he was very skilled, and he was, very sought after in this kingdom, so much so that he worked his way up to become a royal guard, and he was given the duty to be the protector of the king's daughter, and the king ended up giving his daughter to him. So he earned his right to have that, and that is just awesome to see on the lineage that Rio is given from. We learn more about his mother, and his mother was, definitely younger than his father, but his mother was somebody who was revered in the kingdom, and it was sad to see on why his parents had to flee was because she ended up catching the fancy of another prince from a corresponding nation to them. And because the prince caught her fancy, he wanted her for himself. So he was going to kidnap her. But then Rio's father stopped that. And because of the prince's disdain and animosity and anger, they ended up having to run away so that the king and queen weren't continually fearful for their daughter's life. And I was like, that is sad and it's crazy, and yeah, it happens. So I thought that was all crazy. The other thing that I really, really enjoyed watching about this episode too, outside of, finding out where Rio's from, finding out his lineage, he now has not authority, but he has a connection to the throne now for this kingdom. So regardless of who he was in the other kingdom, the other country he came from, he now has a connection to the throne. He's basically like a prince of this kingdom now, which I think is really cool. But one thing that I really wanted to note was what I loved about this too was this is very much feudal Japan. So even though they're in a different world with magic and abilities and everything else, the way that the world is, at least the country that he's inhabiting, is, I feel like the country that he came with was more like England or European kind of traits and practices. And I feel like where he's traveled to now is definitely like Japan and Japan ancient, just kind of like their practices, their homes. He's basically went into like the Japan version of this other world. and they're very much like feudal Japan, like very old school Japan, where samurais are still prominent and things like that. Even when we saw the girl being attacked in the town, like the cops were like guards, were like swordsmen, which I really love seeing that as well. Rio also, during that moment, he also spent he spent special time with one of the girls too. He gave her a pendant and stuff like that. But I love the feudal Japan piece, and I just love that I eat up this anime. But I love that they are doing tropey things. They even have a tropey character who looks like a knockoff Kirito, but at the same time, they're doing these things very methodically, and they're doing it in a way that I'm really enjoying. The way that they're telling the story and the way that they're kind of interwoven and interwoven these things into the story, I'm really, really enjoying that quite a bit. Much more so than if you were to explain, guy has parents killed, guy saves a girl, guy gets incepted to a kingdom, gets kicked out of a kingdom, finds out that he's has lineage to another kingdom. If you were to explain it at face value, and that he gets like 12 harems on the way. If you were to explain it at face value, I'd be like, ugh, like, pass. But watching it, I'm just like, yeah, this is great. I love the character. I like Rio quite a bit. I love that. I love, that it's revenge that motivates him, but he's doing it in a very, like, intelligent way. Like, I like all of that. I like that he's building relationships with a ton of different people. The Beast Village people, his mother's people. He left people behind in the kingdom. So he has these different relationships that he's building on his journey. And I like that he's kind of building this communication circle of folks around him that he's going to be able to call, and that will have his back as he grows as a character, as he grows as a person, as he grows into his own lineage, into royalty later down the line. He has all these people who will be absorbed and will be connected to him. And I think that's really cool. Overall, as you guys can tell, I can continue to praise Vomit, the anime, but I really loved this episode. I thought it was really good. And even though I expected, nothing happened that was unexpected, but the way that it happened was unexpected, and I really appreciated that. I also really appreciate you guys coming in for another review. Make sure that you guys come by for next week's episode. I appreciate that as well. Let me know all your thoughts about Spirit Chronicles down in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys next week for the next episode. Peace out, boys and girls.